Kids these days do different things. They're mostly on the internet or taking selfies with their friends and doing that sort of stuff. When I was a kid, I loved to climb trees, run around, and get muddy, and just cause serious hijinks. I'm sure if you grew up in the 90s, your childhood was the same. But from time to time, I would relax and play some games, TV, and one of my favorite things, coloring. I loved coloring, in particular the coloring books you can usually find in pawn stores. Sometimes after school, my mom would buy me some, and I would just sit the rest of the night and color while either listening to music or watching TV. They were the best times in my childhood. Let's fast forward to 2011. I've grown up, moved house, and I've started to live life. I'm 19 and I attend a Scottish college just up the west. I do an art class 3 times a day. It's great. Everything was and is still fine. I guess this is where I'll try to explain things. The reason this story ever happened is because of the class. If I never took the class, then this story wouldn't exist. I come in one day and meet up with Paul. We all sat down ready to learn about different things, about texturing and shading. However, instead of the class starting, the tutor pulled me aside and gave me a coloring book. My teacher, McCritty, was actually very close to me and my family. Heck, he even brought me coloring books when I was a kid, so I wasn't surprised when he handed me over an old coloring book. He gave me the book with a very happy and pleased look. I gave him a smile and took it. He looked down and then back up at me. I remember him telling me that something had came up and that class would have to be cut short today. And that I'd hope I appreciated the book. I nodded and said thanks while walking to my seat. Class went normal. In fact, everything was fine. Of course, I find it odd and a bit embarrassing to receive a coloring book in college in front of all my colleagues and my friend Paul. But that was his thing. He always gave me little things there and then. And to be honest, I don't think Paul, or anyone for that matter, really cared. I never got a good look at the book until I got home. As soon as I came home and sat on my bed, opening up my bag and got out the old coloring book, everything was fine, except a few pages were scribbled out with red crayon. However, this is where things really took a turn for the weird. At the end of the coloring book was a disc. A blank disc. I put the disc in my computer, expecting some sort of art or children's how-to-art tutorial. Instead, it was a completely normal episode of The Simpsons. Well, it was cut abruptly at the end, but I'll get to that. The episode in particular was the one where Homer finds out he only has so long to live and tries to do everything he always wanted to do. Why this episode in particular? Well, at the time I didn't know. Again, the episode was normal, except for the ending. The scene where Homer sits on the sofa listening to a tape plays. It goes on for about a minute and then zooms out on Homer and fades to blank. That was it. That was the only thing that was wrong with the tape. I had so many questions. Why was there a random episode of The Simpsons in an old coloring book, and why was it edited? There were so many questions in my mind. Unfortunately, the next week, they were answered. When I appeared for art class, the door was locked, and one of my friends, Paul, said to me that something came up, and that class was closed. Me and Paul went downstairs to the hub area of the college and started discussing why the class could be closed. Well, with the art class closed, me and Paul did doing nothing for the rest of the day. It gave me the perfect opportunity to show him that weird Simpsons episode. Already prepared, I put in the disc and turned to my friend and asked him to watch this unusual thing. Curious, he came over to observe what this particular thing was. To his disappointment, it was an episode of The Simpsons. I tried to explain to him that this episode was edited in such a way it gave off an ominous vibe. The college was empty, and with it being winter, it was somewhat dark. I thought it was the perfect atmosphere. We stuck it in and watched The Simpsons. Throughout the viewing, Paul started to read the old coloring book. He saw the pages that were horribly colored in red crayon and tried to tell me something, but before he could speak, I interrupted him to tell him where the DVD gets somewhat disturbing. I remember him looking mildly horrified as he saw Homer sitting on the chair and not getting up. As soon as it faded to blank, he nudged me. I remember him saying something like,
"Dude, you got me. This is all a little creepy prank. It's past Halloween, man. A bit late, huh?"
I gave him a genuine look of seriousness and said that Mr. McCready gave me it. He looked at me with a serious way and tried to explain why he gave it to me. When we came to a conclusion that maybe he liked The Simpsons and that particular episode was his favorite. However, our hypotheses were proven wrong. Mr. Arbuckle came down looking sort of mad, raising his voice and asking where we were and that he was looking for us for ages. We apologized and said to him that we didn't know what to do and that possibly today was a holiday. At that point, I noticed my mom walking behind him. He bent down and looked at me. He looked genuinely upset.
"Son, it's Mr. McCready. I really don't know what to say, but it seems he was facing tough times and, well, he's no longer going to be your art teacher."
I looked at him in confusion. So did Paul. He said that my mother would tell me the rest later. I went up to Mom about Mr. Arbuckle to me and my mom to a conference room. My mom explained that Mr. McCready was going through depression and that he tried to use art as an escape. I noticed along, and I was dreading that She was going to tell me. I knew it was coming. She finally said it, that Mr. McCready committed suicide. However, from my disbelief, she told me that she was the one that found him in that state. As I said, Mr. McCready was close to me and my family and was neighbors with my mom. So much so that she lets herself in, and Mr. McCready would be fine with that. They explained that the door was unlocked, and she found him in the living room, half naked and covered in red crayon. She went into more details about how the crayons themselves were lodged down his throat, and that his body looked badly beaten. She then started to cry. Arbuckle and I comforted my mother, and that's when she told me that Mr. McCready only had a year left to live, and that most likely he was depressed. The funeral was nice. A lot of people attended, and even Paul attended. Of course, I told Paul everything about a week later. Me and Paul both agreed that it all makes sense. The red crayons and the scribbling, and of course the episode of The Simpsons. Why the Simpsons? Well, I showed my mom the DVD and asked her why Mr. McCready would send me an episode of The Simpsons, and apparently Mr. McCready's wife, who sadly died before him, loved The Simpsons, and that he would watch it with her almost every night, so much so that he became a huge fan himself. I kept the DVD in the box, for that matter. I always will. Me and Paul both attend art school. However, it's a tutor that doesn't put in as much effort as Mr. McCready did.